Greetings, everyone. I hope you are doing well by God's grace. By God's grace, I'm back. I am back and I decided to make this video today. I made a video last 2 weeks about the Shiloh SDA church inviting non-Adventist pastor to teach the church members how to do mission better. And last week, I watched a video in which the church pastor of the Shiloh SDA church in Ontario, Canada, was responding to me or was responding to my video.
I have to do something very quickly. It will not take away from the service, but I do need to address something. I don't generally do this from the desk, but I will.
And I also decided to make this video and share with him the truth, and also share with the Shiloh SDA church the truth in love. This is not an attack on the Shiloh SDA church pastor. Neither is it an attack on the Shiloh SDA church in Ontario, Canada. But it is an attempt to share the truth, the present truth, with the pastor. So without wasting much time, let's go ahead and listen to what the pastor said about me and my channel, and we'll respond to some of his claims. All right, so let's get into it.
I have to do something very quickly. It will not take away from the service, but I do need to address something. I don't generally do this from the desk, but I will. One of the challenges that you have when you are an online ministry, everybody has access to you. Are you with me so far? Pre-pandemic, a lot of our churches, we only had 5 subscriptions because for 40 years, 50 years, it was just us and the people that we worship with in the building. But because of the pandemic, many of our churches have chosen to go online. And when you go online, anything can happen online. Sometimes people will cuss in the comment section. Sometimes people will say things in the comment section. And then for some, they have used the internet as a means to pad their pockets. So I need to just talk about this briefly, and then we're going to get into the message. And I'm pushing back, not so much because it's about Pastor Andre, but at some point, sometimes you have to stand up to bullies online. So what happens is, for those of you that don't have a context, those of you that know me very well know this. I will connect with anybody and everyone as long as they're not doing anything that's going to put me or them in jail. Let me put the disclaimer. Those that know me know that about me. Last week, I invited a speaker to talk to our congregation that belongs to another denomination that rents our building, that worships here every single Sunday. I'm going to say this out loud. Even if I lose friends, it's okay. I know who I believe in, and I have a friend in Jesus. I do not believe that Seventh-day Adventists are the only ones who know Jesus. I believe that there are a lot of people who love the Lord just like we do. However, they have chosen, based on their own understanding of Scripture, to do things their kind of way. I don't judge them. I believe what I believe, and so therefore I'm going to continue to worship God and worship on the Sabbath, but there are other people that are going to be in heaven that are not Seventh-day Adventists.
All right, let me pause here and address this, all right? So what the Shiloh SDA church pastor is saying right now is true, is the truth. As Seventh-day Adventists, we don't believe that only Adventists will go to heaven. We don't believe that only Adventists are God's children. I do not believe that. And I think you don't believe that also. We believe that there are God's people in other churches too. John chapter 10, verse 16 says, "And other sheep I have which are not in this fold. Them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd." Ellen G. White also commented on this and said, "God has children, many of them in the Protestant churches and a large number in the Catholic churches who are more true to obey the light and to do the very best of their knowledge than a large number among Sabbath-keeping Adventists who do not walk in the light. The Lord will have the message of truth proclaimed that Protestants may be warned and awakened to the true state of things and consider the worth of the privilege of religious freedom which they have long enjoyed." So this is what Ellen White said about God's children in other churches, in other denominations, and that is true. There are God's children elsewhere in other churches. People that genuinely love the Lord. They are there, even in the Catholic Church. So as Seventh-day Adventists, we don't believe that we are the only ones going to heaven, or we are the only children of God. We don't believe that. Even there are some SDAs, there are some Adventists who are not walking in the lights, as Ellen White said.
Now, I know that this is uncomfortable for some, and I'm not necessarily talking to Shiloh. I'm not necessarily talking to those that are online, but I'm hoping that Brother Lawrence is going to watch this broadcast.
Yes, I'm watching.
Brother Lawrence is making money off of talking about hot news that incites energy and extremists to come out of the woodwork. It is possible to love the Lord and not be a Seventh-day Adventist. You all are uncomfortable. I'm good with this. If what I did was wrong according to our guidelines within our institution, do you believe that I would be here on a Sabbath day the following week when there have been over 20,000 people plus who have watched the video of the apostasy pastor?
Let me pause here and address this. Friends. So he said something about me making money on YouTube, and also said that I'm in apostasy. I'm an apostate pastor. Let me address this. Yes, YouTube sends me some money, but I do work. I have my own small roofing company, and by God's grace, it's doing well. I use this YouTube money to make YouTube videos, and I also give some to charity. And also he mentioned that I'm in apostasy. I'm an apostate pastor. This is so funny, friends. Apostate pastor, speaking the truth. You know, what I do here on this channel is that I speak the truth. I speak the truth about what is going on. The truth that only few people are able to speak. That is what I do here. So it is not about money. It is about the truth.
Now, the interesting thing is, those of you that know me well, and it's not a requirement, I don't need anybody to stand for me. There are a few people that called to encourage me, but I am certain that there were more people that spoke ill of me offline. But that's okay, because I know what it is that I believe. Last week, I invited a speaker that is familiar to our congregation to speak to our congregation, not because she was going to lead us from Sabbath to Sunday, but the message was about the importance of being more missional. So you think that only Adventists have mission?
You know, sometimes people just want you to see an error and be silent about it. But I'm not a kind of person who sees something which is an error and keeps silent about it. No, I'm not a kind of person that only speaks about the errors in the Catholic Church or in other Protestant churches and leave the errors in my own church. That is hypocrisy. Error is error no matter where it is found. If an error is in the Catholic Church and I speak about it, then I should be able to speak about an error in my own church. Some SDA pastors, not all, some SDA elders are drifting away from the truth. Friends, let me tell you the gospel facts. They are drifting away from the truth. The recent GC Spring meeting brought out a research about the SDA church. The research proves that the SDA church, some of our leaders, some of our pastors are gradually drifting away from the truth. Our institutions are gradually drifting away from the truth. And must we be silent? I'm not saying the entire SDA church is in apostasy, but some of the churches in the North American division and some other divisions are doing things that are not in line with the word of God. And so many people have kept quiet. I will not keep quiet. I will not.
Now, if you've been in the church for as long as you have been, is a speaker coming last week to talk about mission going to move you from your Sabbath keeping to another day? And if it does, doesn't that mean that you're not resolved in what you believe in? And I know when I walked in here, some of y'all don't want to make eye contact with me because you think that I might be hurt. I'm not hurt. Because at the end of the day, I know what it is that God is calling me to do, and that is to reach and connect with people. What Brother Lawrence doesn't know is that during the summer, there are Muslims and Catholics and Christians and Protestants who all come here to play basketball. So he might be even more annoyed if he knew that these people are on the property. But not only that, we have a ministry that feeds people who are hungry with no discrimination.
All right, let me pause here and address this. I think Pastor Andrell is not addressing the main issue. He is going round and round and round of the main issue of concern of what I spoke about last 2 weeks. I was not speaking about Muslims coming to play basketball. I was not speaking about other Protestant churches coming to play basketball on the church facility. I did not talk about the Shiloh church feeding non-Adventists. No one has problem with that. That is okay. But the main issue is about the pulpit. The pulpit. That is the main issue. It's about feeding the flock of God. That is the main issue. Who is supposed to feed the flock of God on the Sabbath? Is it an Adventist pastor or a Sunday keeping pastor? That is the main issue, friends. And he seems not to be dealing or addressing the main issue, but going round about the whole issue. I would love Pastor Andrell to answer the question about who should feed the flock of God on the Sabbath, Sunday keeping pastor or an Adventist pastor. Joel Austin has a church. T.D. Jakes has a church. Have you ever seen that T.D. Jakes has invited an Adventist pastor or any other pastor, Jehovah's Witnesses pastor, or some pastor to preach in his church on Sunday service? Have you ever seen that before? There is no problem inviting people into our church to speak to us. There is no problem. But the main Sabbath sermon should be preached by an Adventist pastor. We can give the Sabbath afternoon after the sermon, Sabbath afternoon program. We can invite them to share with us some important things. That is fine. But during divine hour, we should not give our pulpits to them. So I am not having problem with Muslims playing basketball on the property of the church. I'm not having problem with other Protestant churches coming to play basketball. But I have problem, or I will have a problem, if a Muslim is giving the pulpit on the Sabbath to preach or to feed the flock. I will have a problem. I will have a problem if a Hindu is giving the pulpit on the Sabbath to feed the flock. I will have a problem if other Protestant churches who do not have the same beliefs as we have, who do not understand the concept of the great controversy, if they are giving the pulpit to preach on the Sabbath, I will have the problem. And that is what Pastor Andrell seems not to understand. Let's continue with the video, and what I'm going to share with you very soon will shock you.
Don't let people get you nervous. Having another speaker who believes in Jesus come in to talk to us about how to do mission better, isn't going to create pandemonium.
I think this is problematic. It is, because Pastor Andrell is telling us that Adventists don't know how to do mission better. So he is inviting non-Adventists to come and teach Adventists how to do mission better. This is a problem. If Pastor Andrell meant what he said very well, then it is a problem. It is, friends. I know that the Ontario Conference and some pastors in the Ontario Conference would not like me. But I'm speaking the truth. And someday, they'll become my friends. They will all become my friends because I spoke the truth. I do not hate anybody, friends. I don't hate anybody. God knows my heart. I don't hate anybody. I don't seek to offend anybody. But it's a matter of salvation. It's a matter of false doctrines getting into the church and how to protect the flock. Something is going on and no one is speaking. But God has brought us here to speak. I want to pause here and come again with part 2 of the video. This is part 1. I will come again with part 2 about the Shiloh SDA church.